What is up, Comic Book Nation? Connor Casey here today. I am joined by Chris Killian. Chris, we are here to talk a little bit of AEW Fight Forever. It drops this week. The full review is up on comicbook.com right now. People know what I think about it. How you feeling about this game?
We're not here to talk a little bit about it. We're here to talk a lot about it. I am in the middle on the game. I love certain parts of it, and then there are parts that I'm like I wish there was a little bit more, but I know that this is the plan is for them to eventually like release things and kind of keep this title fresh. And if that, so I think that there's potential for this to be an amazing game when all is said and done.
For sure. I landed on initially a 3.5, and then I played it a little bit more. I was like, you know what? The gameplay loop is what's the most fun about it. And when you're the best thing you can say about a video game is it's really fun to play. Well, that gives it a point up in my opinion. But there are a lot of things about the game that kind of fall short. So we'll keep things positive to start off with. What did you really enjoy about this?
Oh man, the everything that I enjoyed about this game, it to me are like I've grown up playing wrestling games for, my whole life essentially. Like I was playing Super WrestleMania on Super NES, and I've played them all.
Sure.
And No Mercy is for sure like this pinnacle of wrestling games that, I mean, I think the 2K series have done a really good job in, like, if you go back and play No Mercy now, there's definitely, you miss things in it, right?
Right.
That it's not aged particularly well. What video game has, but for this game, I think they were at their strongest when they're doing the things that WWE wouldn't do. So the extreme, like, cartoonish violence, like the thumbtacks and the exploding barbed wire death match we see on the screen right now, that stuff's incredible. The fact that they give us intergender matches like that's the stuff that I really missed from wrestling games, and I'm glad that we're getting it here. It's also crazy to think that this is like the first time we've got a non-WWE wrestling game since like TNA Impact, like 15 years ago or something.
To this degree, yeah. There's always your indies out there. It always seems like every month there's a new indie title that some wrestlers have signed away their likeness to. And Fire Pro Wrestling is the one where you'll see a lot of the custom-made sprites. They have a big affiliation with New Japan. But no, this really is the first attempt, honestly, since the AKI days, where you've got the two big companies both firing with their own titles. But for me, like Chris, you're in a unique position where you were way back at the start. For me, I kind of missed the golden age. I had a Nintendo 64. I did not have No Mercy or WCW NWO Revenge.
Dude, your childhood was robbed.
It was like, litany of reasons for why we didn't have it. I just didn't have it. But I didn't start being a fan of wrestling until 2003. My first game that I
let
played...
Let me guess. Is it Here Comes the Pain?
No, it's actually... The first game I ever really played with any sort of length was Day of Reckoning on the GameCube, because that was all we had at the time. But the only one I really dived into first was SmackDown vs. Raw 2007.
Oh, you missed out on Here Comes the Pain,
so
too?
I missed out on a lot of stuff.
No,
so when I go back and so first of all, this game is targeting an era of nostalgia that I don't necessarily connect with. But when you talk about the craziness of the violent matches, the bizarre stipulations, just the crazy stuff you can do with different weapons, different matches, parts of the arena, that was all still there when they were making those SmackDown versus Raw games. And as the 2K series took over, they kept pulling that further and further back to the point where now when you play it, it's about as family friendly as the show is. They keep things pretty PG. And so there's not crazy stuff like, oh, you can climb this scaffolding and jump off through two tables and the tables are on fire and stuff like that. And then it's also a matter of the control scheme. I have 2K22 and 23. I spent a couple hours on both trying to get the control scheme down. It was difficult. It was hard for me to kind of master, to the point where if I start a match and I get knocked down in the first minute, I might as well restart, because I don't know what the hell to do, and the countering system is difficult. The grappling, it's gotten so complex to the point where it's like, if I haven't been dedicating hours of this, I'm not gonna get it. And
You
it's
know,
gonna
it's
take.
funny. It's funny that you say that because I've been playing the 2K games religiously. I mean, I don't think I've missed. The only one I missed was 2K20, the really
Right,
bad one.
rightfully
That's the
so.
only one that I've missed. But I love 2K19. I love 22. I love 23. Um, I actually had an opposite because everybody's been like, this is really easy to pick up, but I'm so ingrained.
Hmm.
And like, I play with my son, and we're so ingrained with the 2K series that it was really like a mental hurdle to like get past those controls
Sure.
and be able to get. It took me like a solid 2 or 3 hours to like get to where I started not being frustrated while I was playing this game. Now that's just not to say that the game's not easy to play. It's because I'm so used to the 2K controls that it was a little bit of a challenge for me. But now that I'm actually playing it and getting into it, I do love the controls in this game. I think they're a lot of fun.
Yeah, you kind of have to retrain your brain for it. And honestly,
Yeah.
it reminded me of Smash Brothers, where it's the combos are all kind of directionally based, and you only need to remember a couple of numbers to know, like a couple of combinations to be like, okay, this is how I do Kenny Omega's V trigger. This is how I do the go to sleep. This is how, by the end of it, I'm starting to play the story mode with Omega, and I'm like, oh, well, this is actually a hell of a lot easier than I thought it would be. And if I were trying to do the same over in 2K, I'd be like, shoot, an hour from into it, I'm like, wait, how do I do my finisher again? How do I
Yeah.
set up for a suplex? I don't know. And I really appreciated everything felt fluid.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is going to be the one where if you've never played a wrestling game, you could pick this up and within minutes be like, okay, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, the emphasis on this game is definitely fun, and I want to like bring it back to what you were talking about earlier about how like the environments are so interactive, which and it's little things like that's what I find that the game like really excels at is like the little things, like the fact that there's like a 5-person title entrance
Mm-hmm.
is like something that like how have we never got this in a 2K game? Like there's so many titles and we see it all the time. We've seen it with several wrestlers who've collected belts from different organizations and so on and so forth. And
Mm-hmm.
when like when you're playing a wrestling game and you make your wrestler like a main event guy and you just want to like so many players want to just run through the roster and collect all the belts.
Can't
And the
do it.
fact that it's taken this long to get an entrance like where somebody's holding 5 or 6 titles, that's amazing. The environments are amazing. Like the fact that you can like jump on the guardrail or the fact that you can smash through the screen, little things like that, I think have like set the fun meter up. Like it surpasses the gameplay in 2K in a lot of ways.
And the wrestlers, I compared this in the review. I've gone when you hop on 2K, you see the creator wrestler, library, and you see what other people have made. And at the top is always, hey, here are the big AEW wrestlers that you're trying to get on the 2K roster. And you play as them and you're like, okay, maybe they got the look close down, or maybe they made it, maybe a couple of the finishers were already in the game, so they were able to put those in. It never feels like I always try to download Kenny Omega. I always try to get him. Never feels right. Try to download Brian Danielson in 2K23, doesn't feel the same. I play this, that feels like Kenny Omega. That feels like
No,
Darby
yeah,
Allin.
I agree with you. It does a really great job of making the wrestlers feel the same, but to not to segue into the bad stuff,
Mhm.
but the same could be said, if not worse, for the creation suite here.
That is
Because
that
if
is
we were going to make any of the top WWE guys and put them in this game,
oh,
there's
good luck.
no way you can do it.
No, no, and that's getting into the negative side, which is this is a great first shot, but this is not. This doesn't fully realize the potential that the gameplay loop introduces, and it's that once you get outside of just playing matches, everything else does kind of fall short. If you're trying to create a wrestler, there aren't that many options. You try to play Road to Elite, there's some replayability to it, but it's shocking how shallow and short a full playthrough
Especially
is.
being compared to No Mercy, which when you get into No Mercy or Here Comes the Pain and those season modes,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those were so good as far as like where all the branches would go. And you could, I mean, and most of them were like a whole year, right?
Right.
In Road to Elite, it's only 4 months. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you where I was pretty shocked at how shallow it really, like, Road to Elite really felt. Like,
And,
I think I got through the first run with Sting in like 2 hours.
right. And that could have been such an easy win for them when you look at what 2K has done recently. Like, they abandoned the Road to WrestleMania storylines. They basically abandoned ones where you can play as a wrestler and go through a year's worth of story. SmackDown versus Raw used to do a great job with those. And now it's the same story every year of, hey, you're a brand new wrestler, you start in the Performance Center, you go to NXT, you go to Raw and SmackDown. Maybe there are some storylines, maybe you're just wrestling a bunch of matches, and hey, maybe you win a championship. And I'm thinking that's so easy. Even if it was just recreating AEW stories to immediately jump ahead of them.
I also feel like something I mean, I get what they were going for with the mini games.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I understand that they want a little bit of extra whatever there, but no, I feel like no potential buyer, then nobody is buying AEW Fight Forever for the mini games.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore I feel like I would have rather of them not have done that at all, and then just focused on including more match types, or including any just more wrestling stuff. That's what I would have preferred.
And the mini games and I mean, honestly, if you look at a lot of the screenshots that people are posting from Road to Elite right now, you're like, what the hell are they doing? To me, I read that more as it's Pokemon Stadium for the mini games. It's Street Fighter meets a Being the Elite sketch for all of the little interactions you have with people. Like, a lot of them are kind of winking at the camera like, hey, this is ridiculous because we don't have voiceover right now. Thank you for teaching me how to pronounce that word. Right. They're clearly having fun with that. Yeah. So that was their way of being like, look, no one's taking this as seriously as the full-on sports sims are, which I appreciated. I'll take Street Fighter 2 level storytelling over the
storytelling in Road to Elite didn't bother me. I'm okay with things being funny, or a storyline about your luggage getting lost at the airport, so you have to wrestle the match in your street clothes. Like, things like that are fun. I like that, and I like what they did with Road to Elite. I just would have liked more of it. And if you could sacrifice the mini games for more Road to Elite, or for a few more match types, I would have much preferred for them to do that.
And then talk about not going far enough. Let's get to what my real gripe of this is, which is that this game is immediately dated on the day it comes out, based on the roster and based on everybody's ring gear, ring attire, and presentation.
I mean, even the arenas, right?
The arena, it's like I had to go back and double check. I'm like, is Rampage even in this? And I double check. I'm like, okay.
Now, one thing I didn't, if you'll notice in the clips that we're playing, the new Rampage mat is, I created this arena right here. I created an arena to try to make a more current version of Dynamite. And then there's also the Rampage mat that I used to create an arena. So there are a few things there that you can sort of play with to update it yourself just a hair, but like the stage and everything, that they're all old. They're old versions of the arenas.
This really the way wrestling video games are always coming up against the fact that they're immediately dated because it takes so long for development, and wrestling is always changing. The problem is, like, I can tell the cutoff for this was somewhere in like late 2021, because you have Danielson, Punk, and Adam Cole, but you don't have the Blackpool Combat Club, you don't have the JAS, you don't have a bunch of the wrestlers that exploded in popularity in 2022, you don't have the trios titles, the international title, any semblance of Ring of Honor. And
when I heard that you could only have 4 people in the ring at a time, I assumed we wouldn't be getting the trios title, but the international. And again, this is where I'm hopeful for the game, because like you said, you gave it a 4. I would probably give it a 3 in its current incarnation now, based solely on how fun the gameplay is and a couple of the more extreme matches. But I think that they will benefit so much by being able to include, like, whether it's DLC or some free updates or whatever. But I think that like a new title, some new arenas, and some updated members of the roster, but also like just match type options. Like one thing that 2K does really well is that you can go in and you can change the match types. Like you can make something a first blood match, or you can make it an elimination match, or you can, make it an Iron Man match or 2 out of 3 falls. Like just being able to change the options a little bit would make these matches feel that they already have so much more fresh, right? Like because like there's gauntlet matches, there's in the Road to Elite, there's 3-person ladder matches in Road to Elite, but those aren't in the base, like they're not in the exhibition mode.
Right.
And why would you not have it in there? Like you clearly have the setup to play it.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm hopeful for that they will include in updates. I should also say we have played this on a pre-day one patch. So I have no idea what's coming with the day one patch and what updates, might be available as soon as that drops.
We've seen some DLC, and there's been rumors of a battle royale system similar to a Anarchy in the Arena or Stadium Stampede
the Stadium
type thing.
Stampede.
Right. And honestly, like looking at the roster makes me immediately go, okay, they tried to get this thing out in 2022, and for whatever reason, it didn't. Because and it's also in like Road to Elite, they show all the old historical clips, and it's all from 2019, 2020, and 2021, and you're kind of like, wait, is that where we're stopping? Because a lot's happened since then.
Yeah.
And we talk about this. We've gotten it pre-day one. They're already hyping up DLC. We're getting FTR, Broken Matt Hardy, Danhausen, a litany of other people. Let me ask you this, Chris. Do you want this to go the route of a No Man's Sky, where we're here 18 months from now and they've done so much post-launch DLC and season passes, battle passes, new additions, quality of life improvements, to where 18 months from now we're going, oh, Fight Forever is the most fun wrestling game to play right now? Or do we go the route of something like Street Fighter, where nobody talks about the first game, but the gem of a great idea was in there, to where Street Fighter 2 builds on top of that and becomes the staple of the industry?
That's a great question. Instead of No Man's Sky, is that the game that you referenced?
Yeah, it's the one where nobody liked it when it first came out, and they've done so much since then.
What I've been comparing Fight Forever to, in my hope, is that it's like Grand Theft Auto,
sure,
right? Where it's become like same thing with Grand Theft Auto, where like when we first got GTA Online, I mean, it was like, I don't know, 10 years ago or something, but it was so bare bones. But now they've put so much stuff into Grand Theft Auto that I've probably spent hundreds of dollars on that game in DLC and so on and so forth, because they've done such a great job of keeping that game fresh. I would prefer that route, especially because I honestly don't know if this is a $70 game at launch, if I'm being completely honest. Like I feel like a $50 game maybe, but it's just, I think that if they can keep it fresh and they can keep updating it, and that, from what I've understand, that's the plan, right? That's the plan, is to like, they're not going to have a yearly title. This is going to be like a 3 or 4 year thing. Correct. Where they're going to keep, dropping new stuff. So if that's the case, I do think that if it's more than just like 2-person DLC packs, that they're going to keep trudging along, and we are going to get like a new belt or a new match types or new arenas or what, like if there are other things that they're going to include outside of just updated roster, I think this could eventually be one of the more fun wrestling games. But I think they need to be a little bit more. I would like to see THQ Nordic be a little bit more forthcoming about their plans.
For sure. Well, guys, we will keep you updated on all of those plans and everybody's reaction to AEW Fight Forever as the weeks go on. But Chris, thank you so much for taking the time today. Guys, you can catch AEW Fight Forever, PlayStation 4 and 5, all the Xboxes, Nintendo Switch, and Microsoft Windows, and check out full coverage of the game over at comicbook.com's wrestling page. See you then.